Arcadian Vanguard presents The Wrestling News in your daily wrestling newscast for Friday, December 29th, 2023. Good morning, I'm Mike Sempervive. We begin today with highlights of Tony Khan's World End media call, which took place yesterday. Khan spoke on a variety of newsworthy topics. In addressing AEW's relationship with Warner Bros. Discovery in light of upcoming TV rights negotiations, as well as the potential negotiations for WWE's Monday Night Raw, he had this to say.
Warner Bros. Discovery has been an indispensable partner throughout this journey. I'm very excited about the future of AEW and excited to work with Warner Bros. Discovery throughout 2024. And going forward after that, there's going to be a lot of exciting conversations about AEW media rights. Knowing that there's a ton of interest in ROH and that product right now from outside parties, and knowing that there's far, far more interest in AEW, multiple times more, and far greater rights fees out there for AEW in the future, I think it bodes very well in the market, knowing that there will likely be a lot of suitors for AEW.
Khan was also questioned by Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics regarding AEW's declining TV ratings throughout 2023 in comparison to WWE's.
Cable television is down a lot more than 10% year over year. And both of us at Raw at down 8% and Dynamite down 10% are beating the hell out of gravity. And both of us are looking at a big pay raise this year. Frankly, I think it's crazy with sports economics. You talk about these numbers and it's like, like $50 million wasn't a lot of money. It was a lot of money. We've been getting paid year over year for Dynamite, and it's going to be a lot more for us going forward.
When questioned by Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer on the recent departure of several top executives, including QT Marshall, Raphael Morphy, and Dana Massey, and what this might mean for the company, Khan gave this response.
Really very challenging. To have people like that step away, but I think that the company's growing, and I'm very excited about what we'll be doing in 2024.
Khan also addressed the recent loss to the roster of Kenny Omega, who has stepped away to deal with a case of diverticulitis, and what that means for World's End in particular.
It affected a lot of stuff. When you lose a star like Kenny Omega, the dominoes start to drop, and that's a great, great question, and it's something people don't think about as much, that when there's an effect on things that can affect people all over the show in different places.
Ring of Honor streamed last night on Honor Club, featuring matches taped last Saturday at the Frostbank Center in San Antonio, Texas, and on December 20th in Oklahoma City. In the main event, AAA Mega Champion El Hijo del Vikingo teamed with Commander and Lee Johnson to defeat Gringo Loco and the Workhorsemen. Kyle Fletcher made his first defense of the ROH World TV title, turning back the challenge of Willie Mack. In a three-way tag team match earlier in the show, Shane Taylor Promotions defeated the Boys and the Infantry. Ross and Marshall Von Erich were once again on hand, teaming with Brian Keith to beat the Iron Savages and Jack Jameson. In a six-woman tag, also on the show, Taya Valkyrie and the Renegades beat Lady Frost, Kiera Hogan, and Trish Adora. In other selected results, Diamante and Mercedes Martinez defeated Layla Hirsch and Rachel Ellering. Billy Starks beat Vert Vixen. Ethan Page topped Johnny TV. And Dalton Castle went over Peter Avalon. In ratings news, last Wednesday's World End Go Home edition of Dynamite drew a total audience of 843,000 viewers, up 8% from last week, according to WrestleNomics. The rating in the key 18 to 49-year-old demographic was .31, which was up 19% from last week's key demo rating. Last Tuesday's taped edition of NXT drew an audience of 670,000 to the USA Network, which was down 5% from last week's audience of 641,000. The key demo rating was .19, also up from last week's .17 rating. And in more NXT news, the weekly NXT series is being dropped from the United Kingdom's TNT Sports Network as of next week, according to a report from Metro UK. The move would mean that NXT would only be available in the UK going forward on the WWE Network subscription streaming service. Raw and SmackDown will continue to be available on TNT Sports. And before we leave you today, we'd like to remind you that however you consume your content, you can find the wrestling news 24 hours a day and 7 days a week across social media. On Twitter, follow us at Wrestling News AV. Our Facebook page is also Wrestling News AV. The Wrestling News can also be found on the Arcadian Vanguard YouTube page. And for those who utilize Amazon Echo devices, just tell Alexa to play the Wrestling News podcast. And remember to make sure you add podcast at the end. Once again, for daily updates, breaking news, and more, follow the Wrestling News across social media. And that's the news for today. If anything happens, we will be here to tell you about it. No clickbait, no paywall, just the Wrestling News. The Wrestling News is a division of Arcadian Vanguard, and the Wrestling Newscast is a production of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network.